Author and horror conventions are gatherings where fans, writers, publishers, and enthusiasts of the horror genre come together to celebrate their shared interests. These conventions often offer a variety of activities, including panels, workshops, book signings, film screenings, and more. They provide unique opportunities for networking, learning, and enjoying the horror community. Here is a closer look at what these conventions typically offer and some notable examples. Hey there, aspiring horror authors. It's another episode of Sako and the Moon, created by two self-published horror authors. I myself am Sako Toomey, artist and author and a bunch of other things, but we'll just mention that I am self-published 3 times over. I've been working on my craft for decades, and now I'd like to share my skills with you guys.
I'm Dwan L. Hearn, more affectionately known as the Moon, and as I typically just say, I'm the doer of things. I show up and do things.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm far less important than Sako.
Preposterous.
I knew I'd say that, and that she would react that way. Which is why I said that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the doer of things, and one of those things is stirring the pot.
Stirring. Yeah. We are
live, as you can
live, but we wear all the hats. We do. We do all the things. We wear all the hats.
I typically wear this one until winter comes, and then I wear another hat that's very similar to this, but not this one.
But it's a knit hat, I'm assuming. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Hold on, I need to check something. Never mind.
I know what you were trying to do, so I didn't want to talk in the middle
of it. So, activities and features of a convention that curtails for horror writers specifically.
Or in general. There are some spaces that aren't specifically for us, but they welcome us, and we need to make more of a presence in those spaces so everyone knows that horror is here.
Yes, for sure. My list is just horror writer conventions. But we can also talk about other writerly cons that have like a horror undertone.
I mean, there may or may not be one convention in particular that we should discuss, and it is not a horror convention. However, there will be a lot of horror authors present. I refer to us as the cool kids.
I call them my horror cadre.
They are also my written in bloodline, but that's more of a wrestling reference. There is a scribal chief, and believe it or not, it's not me. I should be I'll be like the solo Sokoa of the scribal chiefdom, but that's a wrestling reference that most people here aren't going to understand.
Well, let's get into the activities and features of a convention, and maybe you guys can figure out what parts of a convention you would like to take part in. First off, there are panels and Q&A sessions. Panels often cover a wide range of topics, including the craft of writing horror, the history of the genre, current trends in subgenres like psychological horror, supernatural horror, and body horror.
There's a lot of O's and R's. Like, think about it. In the word horror,
It's hard
only
to pronounce.
5/6 of the word is just O's and R's.
It's just O's and R's. Guest speakers, renowned authors, filmmakers, and other industry professionals share their insights and experiences, often followed by a Q&A session where attendees can ask questions directly. As a note, I know the Moon wants me to mention the con that we are going to next week.
You can talk about it in a minute if you want to. If it comes up now, it comes up now. But we can pause on it.
I will be paneling for 10 panels at the Imaginarium.
At the Imaginarium. Writer Mania, Creator Mania.
Yes. Most of them pertain to horror writing or urban fantasy writing and graphic design things. And RPG things, I think. So I have to double check and make a schedule and all of that.
Yeah,
all that fun stuff. Sometime today, I think.
I have one horror-based panel, and it's really just ridiculousness. Horror writer and screenwriter James Sabata. Yes, it's a name you're going to hear a lot from me because it's one of my good friends. He has this concept called horror in humanities. It's like Cards Against Humanities, so I guess it's horror against humanities, and basically it's his own homemade cards, and it's a bunch of horror themed people who are going to be on this panel. And the schedule came out. I don't know if you saw that, but the actual program came out.
Okay.
Imaginarium.
Yeah.
Download those. You can. Yeah, I just found out who's all on that panel with me, and it's gonna get ridiculous.
It's gonna get
like me, Sabata, Dr. Don Guillory.
Yes.
Scott Bradley, S.A. Bradley, excellent writer. They're all great writers.
Tommy?
Jason William Allen.
Jason, yeah.
Stephanie. And I can't remember if there's another. I think there's one more person that I may not know. I think they're on.
I see. Okay. It's gonna be a blast. I hope to attend.
It's Cards Against Humanities, and it's all horror themed. And I enjoy this game because it's late, it's ridiculous, it's adults only, and you get to live in the space of horror. Like, you're not watching a movie and analyzing a movie. You're not working out the dynamics of a kill scene or the psychology of how to create fear. Which, if you're curious about that, you can find our episode about fear. But you're just living in the world that is like the horror dimension, essentially, and you're just playing with the concepts and the ideas, the energy of horror. And why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to be an active part of that? Right?
Indeed. It's going to be a fun game. And a fun game to spectate, I suspect.
Last year's was interesting. Holly was part of this panel. If you want to know exactly how that panel went, you can join us on Patreon. There's a video of us interviewing Steven Zimmer. And Steven Zimmer was there when this happened last year, and it's an adventure. That by itself is worth the Patreon. Cheap plugs.
On a similar note to the panels, there are workshops and master classes. So, first off, there are writing workshops. These sessions provide hands on opportunities for writers to improve their skills, receive feedback, and learn new techniques from experienced authors. I will note that I am teaching a tarot for storytellers workshop, and also the website for authors workshop. Hopefully people will take notes, or I will come up with worksheets that they can take with them, maybe,
or both.
or both. Also, there are master classes, in-depth classes focusing on specific aspects of horror writing. uh, you can expect, or the kinds of topics that they might do are like creating suspense, which we have an episode on, developing characters, which we have many episodes on, and world building, which I don't think we've done yet.
No.
um World building in horror, that is, maybe we can get Carl to mention that, because
I
his
think if we're going to be having anybody to do that episode, it would probably be Carl. From my understanding, Carl is excellent at world building. That's kind
yes.
of about workshops and master classes.
Mm-hmm.
Masterclass in particular, like the term masterclass comes like you use. There's that service that you can like sign up for that we're not affiliated, called Masterclass. And I've had Masterclass for a while, and you can watch. You can do the sign up thing and whatever else. I mean, if you wanna, they don't sponsor, so I don't really care. Um, and you can learn a lot. And all jokes aside, you can learn a lot. But the difference between that and these workshops at conventions, any convention you go to that offers a workshop, you should at least strongly consider it. If there is one thing you have to know is no matter how good you feel you're doing in a space, there is always room to improve. If you sold 100 copies, you could be selling 1,000. If you sold 1,000 copies, you could be selling 1,000,000 copies. If you're if you're trying to get on a best-selling list, you make it to number 15. Number one is still an option for you. You're already number one on the best-selling list. Having two number ones would be fantastic. There's always room to improve, and the point here is you're learning directly from someone who has done it. I can't tell you how important experience is in a space, in a creative space. Hearing and to be very honest, and this is coming from a personal perspective, it's not because you're from Hollywood, so your screenwriting must be great because you actually had it produced. It's not that factor. It's the fact that you get to sit in a room with this person, whoever the person ends up being, and learn that at one point in time they sat where you are. They knew all that you knew, and they became who they are teaching the class. You know, I tell the story about how was this 2024? 3 years ago, I was a dude who kind of wrote on his own just cuz. Since then, I've had my own. I've had a radio show. I do 2 podcasts. I've released and published a book. I have a few more projects on the way. I've gotten screenwriting awards. I've produced film. This is what happens, and a lot of this comes from being at these conventions, meeting these professionals, having someone I can send an email to who's like, "Hey, I'm having this issue with a thing. Can you give me feedback?" And if you've got the opportunity to sit in a room and have somebody give you direct feedback on what you are doing well but can improve on, that is invaluable. Because at the very least, something you're doing might not be wrong, which is why you continue to do it, but can always be done better in a sense that is more attractive to whatever your audience is, whether that's a musical thing
Or just easier on you,
or just
to
even,
execute.
I mean, we do this on StreamYard, And being introduced to StreamYard has made my podcasting a lot easier. So that's just talking to someone who has experience. This is why we do this show, because Sako's got experience, and now I have experience, and we want to give information to you all who don't have experience, so that you can gain our knowledge. You know, learn everything. What's that advice I was giving? It's like I'll figure it out by the end because I want to make sure I word it correctly. But
Okay.
the gist of it is, learn from other people who've done things, because life's too short to try to learn everything by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so conventions are great places for that. Workshops and master classes are even better because it's focused and it's concentrated. It's just you, a master, and 20 people, maybe, so that you can learn and hone your craft to do your thing better.
Yeah. Uh, so another thing you can look forward to are book signings and meet and greets. There are author signings. Fans can meet their favorite authors and get books signed. These events often include opportunities for brief conversations and photo ops. Meet and greets are informal gatherings where attendees can interact with the authors and guests in a more relaxed setting. For I hate to mention Imaginarium again, but Steve Jackson of Steve Jackson Games is going to be at Imaginarium. And I hope he does a meet and greet, or at least comes by the bar and hangs out. Like, I would love to pick his brain and fangirl out for just a little bit. Because
And
if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be a role player of my own right.
and that's the beauty of Imaginarium, but also kind of goes into other conventions. A lot of conventions where the meet and greets are scheduled. Horror meet and greets, they are very controlled, very planned, because you're dealing with high end directors, high end writers, and a lot of times it's actors from your favorite horror franchises or whatnot. Matthew Lillard is one of those people who are almost always at horror cons. And whether you're a fan of Scooby Doo or a fan of Hackers, yeah, I drew Hackers out of nowhere. Serial killer, how you doing? That was his character name. YouTube, don't you get me on that. Or you're a fan of Stu Macher from Scream, my favorite horror franchise. To meet Matthew Lillard, obviously a lot of people will want to. So you're going to be in line. You're going to pay for the meet and greet and the photo ops and to do the things. There are smaller cons. Imaginarium would be a much smaller con than like San Diego Comic
Mhm.
Con. And in these smaller events, there are no lines for signups. There's no paid photo ops. Steve Jackson will be around. He's been encouraged to be around because people are going to want to talk. There's a game that he's going to actually be doing, I think, sometime on that Saturday around like 3 o'clock, I think it is. And
Munchkin. Yeah.
yeah, so he's going to be there and playing and interacting with all these people who are huge fans of his, like Sako, and the level of inspiration that you can get from just seeing someone that you idolize and being able to interact with them in that space, uh, a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, and I wasn't familiar with them prior to, but last year I got the opportunity to meet Dacre Stoker, um,
Yeah.
a descendant of Dracula, Dracula author Bram Stoker, and I got to sit with him at his table. I got to talk to him around the hotel. Um, I had the unique pleasure of picking him up from the airport, so I've got a chance to just sit in the car with the guy. And when you realize that these are just people with families who do jobs and know a thing, and they're just regular people, and you get to experience that normality, that normacy with them. And that reminds you that they are just like you. They do it, you can do it. And learning about a Steve Jackson and how he develops a game, or a Dacre Stoker and how he works through the lore established before him to create something new, just reminds you that like these are the same kind of thoughts that you have. It's no different than, because everything comes back to wrestling, fantasy booking your favorite wrestlers. You know,
Or football players, yeah.
or well, you don't book a football game, but when you're fantasy booking a wrestling match, you are establishing, here's a story, here's a player, and they're going to interact this way for this particular purpose, leading to this storyline. Be careful if you get a chance to actually do that in front of actual wrestlers. They may call you out. There's a recent incident with CM Punk. Um, Met some wrestling fan reporter, and the guy tried to like fantasy book something. The booking was ridiculous, and CM Punk told him so. It ended. It was CM Punk saying, "Hey, no disrespect, man, but I'm glad that you don't book for a wrestling company," which is harsh, but also honest because the booking was bad. But that's just me being someone who's involved in that space, understands that space and how it works. Going to these horror conventions, meeting those exact people, the people who are doing the thing, who see how it works, and you get to learn from them, that's an invaluable experience. This is why you need to go to conventions. Find the one that is the closest to you, or one that offers what you need the most.
Indeed. I find it inspiring to meet other horror authors who are traditionally published through small press, but like they're doing the thing, and it has me thinking that maybe I will do the same.
I mean, you got guys like Carl Moore, guys like Tommy B,
Carl
Tommy B.
Moore,
Smith.
Tommy, like
We love these guys. Like, you're going to hear, there are certain names on this show you're going to hear a lot anyway. James Sabata, Don Guillory, Scott Bradley, Tommy B. Smith, Carl R. Moore. All these middle initials are throwing me off.
yeah,
Because to us, it's Tommy, it's Carl, it's James, it's Don, it's Scott. Scott with the good hair. Hashtag, shout out
Scott
to
with
my wife.
good hair. Yeah.
Shout out to my wife because she likes to call Scott Bradley Scott with the good hair. But again, mind you, what we just talked about, every single one of those names are published authors. All of them.
Yep.
They've got a few titles each. James has probably, it's been 5 minutes. How long? The show's been on for 25 minutes. He's probably written 5 books since then. So like, these are the people.
I have some of his books on my shelf.
I have some Sabata books, but they're at home. They're not in my office. They're at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I have almost all of them because James was like, "Here, Moon. Here's a stack of books."
Oh
And
shit.
yeah, he's like, "What books do you not have of mine?" I'm like, "This one is it. Here you go." And then S.A. Bradley gave me a book of his.
Ooh.
I don't know if this is on your list, but I'm going to just bypass your list for a second. Author readings is a really interesting thing to experience. I sat through some author readings last year, and there's nothing like hearing an author read their own work. And I said his because I'm picturing Tommy's because it was pretty memorable. And I got a feel for some of Tommy's work, and you get a chance to pick up a Tommy B. Smith book. Do it. Like, After this, matter of fact, go ahead and open another tab and go find Tommy B. Smith and go buy a Tommy B. Smith book. His writing is great. The imagery is fantastic, and I know that now. There's nothing better as far as promoting your own stuff than to promote your own stuff by reading it. And Holly's just opened up the list of author readings, and I am debating on whether or not to sign up.
Ooh.
I'm debating. I've not decided yet. To do an author reading, I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Okay. Is that a thing we can do? Can we read our own
for like a 15-minute author reading? The sign up's like available like now. Like they mentioned it yesterday on the like, reach out.
I will.
Because I'm thinking about it. Because
I would love to read the first chapter of Flambeau. Like that is my.
Yeah, I'm thinking about reading Sunflowers, and it's a unique work of mine, and I'm really proud of it. And that's kind of the reason why I published that thing in the first place. And so yeah, but again, that's also one of the reasons why I brought it up, because I'm just a dude who published a book. You know, this show's about 2 independent horror authors. This is something we can do. We can stand on this stage, sit in front of a group of people for 15 minutes and read a story and be like, this is my work. And I can share this with you. And why wouldn't you? At the very least, at the very, very, very least, people can then come up to you and say, hey, I like what you did. Let me share with you some notes and thoughts if you welcome it. Or while you're sitting there listening to other people in your genre, you can hear how they describe something, the worlds that they build, the character, how in depth they are at this point. And you're like, I don't do that, but I like the way this comes across to me. Let me take some notes on that. Show up with a notebook. If you don't show up with a notebook, get out, go get a notebook, come back.
I bring my tablet.
Every convention, I have this. This is my folio. It's what I use. Yeah. I take all my notes in this. You will see me walking around with this.
Mm-hmm.
I have for the last 3 years or so. I've been going to conventions because I'm taking notes on everything. Sometimes you're taking notes on, I don't want to disrupt your whatever notes you've got, but this is where I write down my ideas. This is where I write down the information that I get. This is where I write down the contact information that I have with the people that I've networked with.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, this is one of the bookmark / business cards that I've gotten from the convention. They're still in here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a chance to go and make sure you have a space to keep the business. That's an Ollie's card. The places you can go to network with, because that's kind of the point of
business
going
cards.
to these conventions. And print business cards.
Mm-hmm.
Go get some business cards made. Make them for free on Canva. Get them printed at the local print shop. Whatever. Get business cards. Okay, I'm done ranting. Go ahead.
Okay. Film screenings and premieres. Film screenings and premieres. Which I suspect you have a point or two you're going to want to make. Many conventions feature screenings of classic and new horror films, often followed by discussions and panels with the filmmakers. There are also independent films, which are, they are shown in a showcase for indie horror filmmakers to present their work and gain exposure. And The Moon here actually won runner-up for best screenwriting.
Best screenplay short form.
Yeah.
I did. Thank you. All I'm shooting for first place because I'm nominated again. And the benefit here is when you get to, first of all, looking at your bigger festivals, your bigger conventions, your San Diego Comic Con level things, or your Horror Fest or your Scare Fest, these types of events, you get an idea of what these filmmakers can do on screen with practical effects, lower budgets, things like that. Gives you ideas. Not only that, but you're now there with them. You're like, wow, how did you do that one effect? Was that digital or practical? Like, well, that's practical. Well, how did you do that? And you get to talk to them about these elements that can make your films so much better. I'm not just the screenwriter, but for Howard Hills Entertainment, we all work together as we can uh, in the production of the film. So yeah, I might be the guy who wrote the script, but I'm also the dude holding the microphone and helping the guy adjust the camera, move around this way, and it's what we do. It's when you have to wear all the hats. You have to wear all the hats, including on film sets. But that's a lot of work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That puts a lot of time and a lot of energy to produce a film. Like to write one is fine, but to produce one and make it happen, and editing a film and putting it together. So shout out to Jason William Allen and John Mattingly, the guys who put our movies together. It's a lot of work and a lot of time. And if you get a chance to present it and showcase it, this is your opportunity to do so. And you get to sit there and learn how to make your craft better while at the same time showcasing your work. If you're doing this as a creative, as an artist, regardless of whether it's your graphic novel, your regular novel, your novelette, your short stories, because we talked about different forms of shorter fiction, and regardless of what it is, your film, whatever you're producing and making, you want to showcase it. These smaller festivals that have film elements are either going to show you previews of movies that haven't come out yet. Um, Herschel Zahn has this really awesome documentary, really inspirational documentary that's been showcased in film festivals in different conventions. Some of the work that we're making it to be presented in festivals and conventions. And that's why those awards, like Sako had mentioned, those awards give you credibility. Those those laurels, the award, the little feathery things that you see on the bottom of movie posters, those little feathery things are important because they give us credibility amongst ourselves and amongst our peers and to the audiences that are like, well, is this movie worth it? Side note, if it was produced by an artist, yes it is. And it just helps us say, hey, we did something good. We did something for the culture, for the field. And if you're watching this and you're doing something for, even if it's not the horror genre, which still don't know how you made it here, but hey, we can still help you out. Um, you want to display it, you want to showcase it, and you want to get better.
Same
Festivals,
could be said for art,
all of
like,
it.
and filmmaking is art. I
Filmmaking is
I
art.
do I
All of
do.
it's art. It's all art.
It's
I have a
all art.
hard time being called an artist because I can't draw, but I am an artist. You know, I draw with my words. I create images in film, and I am an artist, and that's really really hard for me to say. Um,
Honest,
for
honest.
you,
I do it for a living, so uh,
yeah,
a way that you can showcase your work when you come to conventions are via exhibitor halls. So first off, there is the dealer's room. So there are books and merchandising, stall selling horror books, memorabilia, artwork, and other genre-related merchandise. That is a thing. Two, you can get. There is often a uh, silent auction when it comes to artwork and whatnot. Um,
depending on the event, yeah.
depending on the event. I have been to several conventions where there has been a silent auction in the artist alley. Networking opportunities. Attendees can meet publishers, agents, and other industry professionals to discuss potential collaborations, case in point, or publishing opportunities, which also might be a thing. So, lastly, there is cosplay and costume contests. So fans dress up as their favorite horror characters. I swear if I see another Silent Hill nurse, I might vomit.
I might get her number. I don't know.
Adding a visual and interactive element to the convention. And there is usually a contest, and following the contest, so there is a competition to reward the most creative and impressive costumes. And then after the contest, there's often some kind of dance or rave or
Silent
ball.
Silent discos are the new thing.
Yes, they are. Where you wear your own.
Your headphones, and the music comes through your headphones. And some of them, I've seen some where they're like the different colors. You either switch to like red or blue, and they're different songs and playlists. So everyone you see wearing this, like you're wearing blue. Everyone you see wearing blue, you're all dancing and listening to the same song. Everyone wearing red, same thing. If you're not part of that, because I don't dance, I'm rarely ever a part of that. It's the funniest thing to watch because these people are in it and you don't hear a thing.
Yep.
But I've also seen silent discos in art galleries.
Mm-hmm.
So I also don't kind of want to hear loud music while I'm trying to enjoy a Picasso or whatever. But about this part, it's a lot of work. You know, I just had my box of books delivered to the house yesterday. You know, that I'm bringing to Imaginarium. You know, you got to process how is your table going to be set up, how are my designs going to be presented, how am I going to arrange this, how do I work my time between being at my table and being involved in the elements of this convention. I want to go talk to Steven Jackson. I want to talk to Bill Obrist Jr. or whoever, but I also need to sell my book. So I need to be at my table to do that. It's work. It's a lot of work when you're wearing all the hats. I only have one head. It's a pretty big one, but it's mostly forehead. It's a pretty big one. But I only have one head. I have a lot of hats to switch out. They're heavy. They got to carry them all around. In all seriousness, though, when you get a chance to do the cosplay, you know, a lot of work goes. These people put a lot of energy, especially the bigger events. There is so much time and energy that people put into their costumes and the lore behind their obscure choice of what character to represent or that embodies them. It's good to just have a little fun because in the end, these conventions cannot be all work. If you don't find a way or a possibility or like some way out to enjoy yourself while doing this, stay home. Just stay home. Sell your stuff online, sell your stuff through email, don't bother. If you can't have fun with it, it's not worth doing. I have a blast. Last year when I met Sako, mind you, we've only been knowing each other for like a year now.
Yeah.
We met about a year ago, and we ate ice cream together.
Mm-hmm.
We went out with a group of people and had ice cream.
And Chinese food.
We had Chinese food that I liked more than she did.
Mm.
I thought it was fine, thank you. But nonetheless, we have fun in this show. Like we joke and we have fun. This is still work. Producer here does a lot of work for this show. And if we can't turn on the camera, hit live, and have fun, if we can't joke and be stupid every once in a while, the show is not going to be worth doing. You're not going to want to watch. I'm not going to want to do it. She's not going to want to bother to produce it. It's not worth doing. The shows have to be fun. The books have to be fun. The panels have to be fun. The all of the work that you do has to pay off, and there has to be some sort of and when you sit down and you have that relaxing sigh, there should be a smile on your face for a job well done. Partnering up with all sorts of wonderful people outside of your genre, because they are still helpful. There are so many people outside of the field of horror that I am just crawling to see again because I love talking to them.
Romance
Robert P.
authors.
Evers,
I
Robert
know.
P. Evers, Matthew and Kathy Jackson, Sandy Linder. Good God, I love that woman. I really do.
I love that community. Like,
They are so good, and these are none of those people I just named do anything close to what I do. They don't produce film. They write fantasy and romance, and they are great people, and you still learn so much from them. So when you go to a convention that is horror based and you're a horror author like we are, you get to learn so much about your field and your industry and the things that you're doing. If you're going to a film festival because you're a filmmaker, you're going to learn so many ins and outs about film. All of that is vital to what you're doing. But understand, and I'm going to plug myself for a second. The writers and wrestling panel that I'm doing at Imaginarium, the point of that is to connect one field, professional wrestling, that people kind of like throw away and think, oh, that's silly. You're an adult that watches wrestling. But to compare it to writing and all the elements that are presented in this show and how they translate into other genres and fields. So even if you're not a wrestling fan, you write fantasy or you want to do short films about mice or whatever, I don't know. There is still a way of connecting one field and genre to another. And I said all that to say this because Sako just gives me free reign on this show. I don't know why. But I said all that to say this. There are conventions that are not going to be horror specific. There will be conventions that may not be your genre or your immediate field. And they're still worth attending if you can, because you'll learn so much about what makes a romance romantic. What is it that entices a person to read a romance? Maybe you've got a horror that has
marketing.
maybe your horror has a romantic subplot, but you really want to keep those two characters together in your future series, right? Well, have a little conversation over coffee. I'll offer her or him a drink or share a meal with you and say, hey, I have this romantic element. What do you do to show the interest between your characters? That's talking to a romance author as a horror author, but there's a place for that in your film, in your short story, in your graphic novel, in whatever it is that you're producing. These people are there. They're everywhere around you in your local writing groups. If you don't have any of these kind of conventions, figure out how to start one. That's how all of these conventions happen. Someone had the idea to start one, and then eventually that happens. I don't know anything about steampunk, but some of the people that get together at Imaginarium have gotten together outside of that, and they have a steampunk convention coming up. Same location, uh, different theme. It's all in that field, which is not my field, but that's the point. They realized that they were all there and they needed something to do. They wanted a convention for themselves, so they started one. And that's how they
My
learned how to do it.
my college friends all and one professor all got together and made AwesomeCon in DC, in the DC area. And it's growing. It's very popular.
And trust me, there are going to be people. You can send out 1,000 invitations to famous people. You'll probably get about 990 rejections,
Mm-hmm.
999, but one person might take a chance on you. One person might take to say, you know what, I would love to be a part of this on the ground floor, because if this becomes something big, I can always say I was at the first one. Why wouldn't you? Right? If this thing doesn't exist in your area, create it. We're creators. It's what we do. So I'm lucky enough to Imaginarium's already here in my local town, so I don't have to really create anything, but I could if I wanted. All of that's to say, go out, meet people, do the things, talk to the folks who wear the same hat as you but a different color, different genre, whatever. Right? They're all going to be beneficial and helpful to you. It's worth your time.
I feel like while there are fantasy and speculative fiction and sci-fi and different kinds of conventions where horror authors can kind of like learn about other aspects of self-publishing or traditional publishing or whatever. Um, and there are conventions that curtail specifically to horror authors.
There are. There's plenty. There's
And I'd
Scarefest,
love to
Horrorfest,
talk about some of
Horrorhound.
them.
Horrorhound. Um,
Horror Hound Weekend is a popular convention featuring celebrity guests, film screenings, and one of the largest horror memorabilia expos in the US.
why Jason never has money anymore. He goes to horror. He goes to Horrorhound. I'll get a phone call. It's like, dude, I just spent $600 on this life-sized thing. They're there.
Yeah. World Horror Convention is an annual gathering of horror writers, editors, publishers, and fans featuring the Bram Stoker Awards, which recognize superior achievement in horror writing. There's Texas Frightmare Weekend, a prominent horror convention in Texas offering panels, screenings, and meet and greets with horror celebrities and creators. There is a convention of sorts called Scares That Care in Williamsburg, Virginia in September or October. I can't remember which. And our Imaginarium people, horror writers, come out over the mountains into the East Coast to attend this convention. It is a unique charity horror convention that raises money for families dealing with medical hardships while providing a platform for horror fans and creators to connect.
Just real quick, if you get a chance to connect your craft to whatever charity means the most to you, I won't specify any, but that's an excellent opportunity. They just had
Spirit of Giving.
Spirit of Giving had they were working with a library in San Diego to work against like the banning of books and having books still be available to people despite what's going on with banning books, because that's the smart thing. But it's a charity, and they have a charity. They did an anthology for that, where the money went to charity. As a creator, some creators have put out merchandise associated with their brand. I think there was like a T-shirt that went. It was like a rainbow T-shirt, and the money went towards a LGBTQ plus organization. Whatever your charity of choice is, utilizing your craft to better that, to just create a little bit of extra good in the world, why not? Why wouldn't you if you have the chance? I encourage you to do so if you can.
I agree. One last convention I would like to mention is one that I will be paneling at is Necronomicon in Tampa. So it is also known as Necronomicon Florida. It is a long-standing convention celebrating its 43rd year in 2024. It's scheduled for September 27th through the 29th. This event focuses on science fiction, fantasy, and horror, offering a diverse array of activities and guests for enthusiasts. Now, I have to mention that yes, it first and foremost it is a horror convention, but there are they accept like fantasy and sci-fi to kind of like come in and have a good time. Um, the guest lineup features a notable lineup of guests, of course, including authors and creators such as Owl Going Back, uh, Kevin A. Davis, and Richard Lee Byers, among others. These guests cover various genres in speculative fiction and horror, providing a rich experience for attendees. You can look forward to a variety of panels, workshops, and live action roleplay sessions, LARPs. The convention also hosts, which I love taking part in, their convention also hosts a cosplay fashion show, trivia sessions, and the Great Scream ice cream social and yard sale, which adds a unique and fun twist to the event. And then there is the venue and accommodation. The event is held at the Embassy Suites by Hilton Tampa, USF, near Busch Gardens. The hotel offers amenities such as free made-to-order breakfast and complimentary evening receptions, ensuring a comfortable stay for the attendees. So, Necronomicon Tampa is well regarded for its welcoming and inclusive atmosphere, attracting fans from across the spectrum of speculative fiction. The convention supports various community activities and charity events, fostering a sense of camaraderie among participants. But the authors that come and table or panel at the convention, it feels like a family, much like Imaginarium.
That is probably the greatest thing you'll get out of going to an event regularly. Find one that's obviously within your budget, obviously within your travel constraints.
Mm-hmm.
If it's local to you, even better. But if you can fly out real quick or it's a not too long of a drive, go find these things and just really network with these people. Because as if we've never mentioned networking on this show before, it's one of the most important things. And it doesn't always have to be about business. I mean, some of my closest friends that I talk to regularly are people like James Zapata, people like Karma Shoemaker. These are people I talk to. I texted Karma before the show started. Like, these are people who will become like brothers and sisters to you. Or
Mm-hmm.
they may be like Vermilion and they may have like a motherly role in your world. And these are people who will be a part of your regular life and they will help you through. I mean, I won't put any promises on them, but there are people who will show you that they care about you. And I think that's one of the most important things an artist can have is a genuine support system, not just to someone who will edit your stuff or beta read or give you a nice quote for the dust jacket, but people who will say, "Hey, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you just went through something. Let me support you best I can, like personally. Let me give you someone to talk to. Let me listen if you need me to do that. Let me help you best I can." And I don't think we talk about those issues in the creative community, um, let alone the horror community. as we deal with horror, a lot of that horror that we deal with comes from some sort of personal level of pain, or it can really be triggering through experiences. I've heard some real life experiences from people who don't do horror, but could easily turn that into a horror masterpiece, and that's their real lives.
Mm-hmm.
And having that genuine human connection, uh, someone to give you that honest support and just on a regular basis, that's indescribable. It's there's almost not words for it. It's that special. Like there are people I can't wait to see just to give them a hug.
Yes.
Like I want to hug some people. I'm hugging a lot of people, consensually, of course, but I'm hugging a lot of people at this convention. And you get to see your old friends. There's people you get to meet, shake hands with, and all that work stuff is great. But when you get a chance to build a genuine community, all the members are unstoppable. And that includes the person who's been doing this for the last 35 years,
Or the people who are just
or
starting.
you, who don't even know if you want to start yet. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you want to take this seriously. You just kind of jot stuff in your notebook, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this notebook full of short stories. These are the people who will encourage you and look out for you when you're doing it. They'll say, hey, as it is, not yet. Let's work through it and get you to publishing ready. These are the things that people will do for you. And this is the best way to create a community. It's at these conventions, at these festivals, attending these workshops. But again, like I mentioned earlier, these are all regular people who just happen to do a thing. And you're a person, a regular person, and you want to do a thing. You might as well go hang out with other regular people who are also doing the things. And
Yep.
conventions,
So
conventions are best place for that.
conventions offer unparalleled opportunities to network with industry professionals and like minded fans. These events foster a sense of community among horror enthusiasts, providing a space to share passions and interests, and sometimes more. Uh, uh, you can gain valuable knowledge about writing and creating a horror through workshops and panels, and you can these events foster no excuse me uh, engaging with the horror community and experiencing new works can be highly inspiring. So if you feel like you have hit a block in your writing or your art in some fashion, sometimes going to a convention and spectating or reading or watching other people's work can inspire you to pick up the pen again.
Happens to me every year. Every
Me
year. I'm not even, I'm kind of in a lull right now. I'm not really blocked on anything. I have some projects I could work on, but I'm at a lull because everything right now is focusing on this convention. And I know for a fact that by this time next year, there's going to be so much more I'm going to have my hands in or be a part of or have something else done or released. And all of that's going to stem from being a part of this community. This particular community is great, but these conventions are everywhere of varying sizes. There are some national ones, international ones, and there's a lot of local ones. Find all of them. Sometimes you just gotta look them up. I've been
Mhm.
telling, I was telling Sako not too long ago that there are people in this town who don't know about the convention that takes place in this town,
Right.
and so
That's a marketing faux, not a faux pas, but a
it's
a,
something I could easily,
a
yeah,
massive
misstep in a sense.
misstep. Yeah.
And
Marketing in your marketing locally is probably the first step
First, second,
in.
and third step, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
But that. My point of all that is to show that you probably don't know about the convention that happens every fall up the street from you, or on the other side of your town, or in the next town over, and you could be attending this at any point. Just gotta look for them. You gotta talk to other people. Like if you have your small writing groups or the local library might know, reach out, ask questions, always ask questions. You'll never get the answers if you've never asked the questions.
I like going
Well,
to the panels and the workshops and the master classes and stuff like that because coming up with the questions can be particularly difficult when you don't know where to start, when you don't have a reference point. And these classes, these workshops, these you get what I'm meaning. They provide the starting point and answer questions that you might come up with, and also provide especially at smaller cons, they can provide uh, a point where you can ask questions of the panelists and like they will often give you the answers that you're looking for.
and if you don't ask the question, person on the other side of the room might. Person next to you might. They might be curious about the same thing you are.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you're not alone in any of this. That's why we're here, to show you that you're not alone in this journey. If you're not sure about how to start the journey, that's what we're here to do. Because at some point in time, we didn't know, and we learned, and we figured it out, we found resources. We went to conventions. We sat through workshops and master classes. We learned a couple of things. We networked and we talked to some people. We got some mentors and set up that community. I just summed up the entire hour in like 13 seconds.
Overall, yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Overall, author and horror conventions are essential for anyone interested in the horror genre, offering a blend of education, entertainment, and community engagement. And
The horror community is pretty damn dope.
yes,
You want to be one of the cool kids.
you want to
I
be
want to be
one
one
of
of the
the
cool
cool
kids.
kids. And if you liked this video at any point, I encourage you to hit the like button. And if you want to see more episodes like this one, we mentioned a bunch of episodes that we've done in the past. I'll put them in the cards, and you might want to subscribe and maybe even ring that bell on the off chance that YouTube actually notifies you when we go live. And next week, the Patreon is going to be bumping. So if you're not already a member on the Patreon, I strongly recommend signing up because next week we're going to have epic amounts of content.
Listen. You're gonna see some like simple videos and stuff that will be on our YouTube channel. We'll probably walk around, ask some questions of some people. I'm not gonna
Right.
mention names because I don't want to make any like open promises, but they love us, so they're gonna do it. All of them will do it. But there's gonna be some things that we're gonna either say or do that probably shouldn't be on the YouTube that my mom can watch, and that will be worth the Patreon. I will see to it. I will ensure that it's worth the Patreon. Dumb shit will take place. It's going to be the best.
It's going to be awesome.
I have some hopes and some dreams and some plans, and I'm hoping that it's not going to just be all spooky noises and kneecaps. I plan for there to be. Well, you should just watch. You should watch. You definitely should be there.
So
I took off
next,
the microphone for this. You should be there.
you should be there.
If you're going to be in the room with us, you need to be on Patreon with us. Trust me.
But if you want to be in the room with us, if you are in the Louisville area, at the Holiday Inn,
Holiday Inn, Louisville East,
Louisville East, yes,
on Hurstbourne.
yep, and come to Imaginarium. You can find their information on the interwebs as entertheimaginarium.com.
Mm-hmm. You'll see a style. If you Google search it, it'll be like a stylized eye. You'll see. You'll know. You'll know. You'll know.
And go scope it out. And I'm gonna be at a million freaking panels, and Dwan, excuse me, the moon is gonna be.
You can call me Dewan. It's my legal name. It's fine.
I know. I try very hard to be consistent, at least.
That's fair.
And we hope to see you there, and like hang out with us at the bar, hang out with us at the parties.
They'll find me. They will know where I am. I don't know how this works, but ask any random person where the moon is, and like highlight that. Yeah, they'll find me. They'll tell you. They'll point you in my direction. It might be like 3 or 4 steps, but you'll find me, and hopefully you find this event.
Yeah, hopefully you find the event. Yes,
it's gonna be a thing.
A thing. All right, we will catch you guys on the flip side.
Indeed.